My name is Lauren, and I'm 27 years old. If you met me today, you'd probably think I'm a calm, put-together woman with a stable job and a steady life. I work as an administrative assistant at a city office here in Seattle, Washington, a job that pays enough to keep me on my feet, but not enough to build the kind of life people think I have. What people don't see is the weight I've carried for years, a weight that didn't come from bills, long workdays, or stress, but from the people living inside my own home. I always believed that family meant support, understanding, and unconditional love. But for me, family was responsibility, sacrifice, and silence. Every morning, before leaving for work, I would fill the fridge, pay the bills, check the mailbox for due notices, and quietly leave money on the kitchen counter for the things that always ran out: cereal, milk, bread, Kaylee shampoos, and whatever else she demanded that week. I never complained. Maybe because complaining never changed anything. My father, Robert, worked irregular hours as a delivery driver, and my mother, Linda, stayed home most days, saying her back pain didn't allow her to work anymore. So everything, absolutely everything, fell onto me. I paid the electric bill, the water bill, the internet bill, the groceries, and even Kaylee's college fees. Sometimes, when my paycheck came in and the bills were stacked too high, I would skip buying something for myself and send the rest home without thinking. That was just the kind of person I had always been. Kaylee, my younger sister, was the opposite. She was 22, spoiled since birth, and treated like a delicate piece of glass that couldn't be touched. My parents adore her. They defended her even when she was wrong, praised her even when she did nothing, and showered her with attention I never received, not even as the elder daughter, who practically kept the house running. At family gatherings, people would compliment Kaylee's beauty, her charm, her carefree personality, while I stood in the background like a quiet shadow no one noticed. I never wanted attention the way she did, but sometimes I wish someone would say, "Lauren, thank you for everything," or even just, "We see how hard you work." But those words were never meant for me. It wasn't jealousy. It was exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion. Growing up, I learned early that my feelings had no place in this house. If I cried, I was told to stop being dramatic. If Kaylee cried, the whole house turned upside down to come for her. If I needed something, money was tight. If Kaylee needed something, money magically appeared. I remember once asking Mom if she could help with my bus pass when I was 18 and working part-time. She said we couldn't afford it. But that same day, she bought Kaylee brand new sneakers just because she liked them. I didn't complain. That had never been my role. I stayed quiet, did my part, and thought one day they would realize my worth. But that day never came. As the years passed, the distance between me and my parents grew. Not in miles, but in appreciation. They relied on me more and valued me less. They never asked how my day went, never checked if I had eaten, never wondered if I needed help with anything. They just assumed I'd manage. I always did, but I had no idea that quietly carrying the family would one day become the very reason they turned against me. Living with Kaylee was like living with a storm disguised as sunlight. She was charming in public, but sharp and bitter at home. She complained about the smallest things, blamed me for everything, and acted as if my existence was competition. But still, I included her in everything. I helped her with assignments, gave her rides, bought her books, and paid her fees without a second thought. I believed that kindness eventually comes back to you. I was wrong. Very wrong. And I had no idea that the people I loved the most would be the ones to break me in the cruelest way possible. If someone asked me to describe Kaylee from the outside, I would say she was pretty, confident, and full of the kind of charm people fall for instantly. But if someone asked me to describe her from the inside, the version only I got to see, I would say she was a ticking bomb wrapped in ribbons. She had this unsettling mixture of sweetness and venom, a blend that only those closest to her ever witnessed. And, unfortunately, I was the one closest. Even though I'm 5 years older than her, Kaylee always behaved as if I were beneath her, like I was some boring old wallflower whose only purpose in life was to make sure her world stayed perfect. If I came home tired from work and needed quiet, she would blast music because it's her house too. If I accidentally left the milk in the wrong fridge shelf, she made it a dramatic event. But the moment she messed up, it became harmless, innocent, or not a big deal. And my parents? They always agreed. Over time, I noticed how Kaylee looked at me whenever someone praised me, even in the smallest way. The day my manager sent me home early with a good job card and a small appreciation bonus, Kaylee's smile dropped instantly. She didn't congratulate me. She just asked, "So, are you going to spend that on yourself for once? Or are we still paying your electric bill out of your kindness?" The sarcasm was sharp, but the resentment behind it was sharper. The truth was simple. Kaylee hated that I was responsible. She hated that I earned my own money, that I held everything together, that I had a place in the world that wasn't dependent on anyone. She hated that people trusted me, relied on me, and respected me. Things she couldn't earn no matter how pretty she looked. And nothing irritated her more than watching me leave for work every morning while she slept in or complained about exhausting college life, which she barely attended. What made the tension worse was the constant comparison, one that only Kaylee felt. She made everything a competition, even things that had nothing to do with her. If I came home with a new sweater, she suddenly needed a more expensive one. If I bought groceries, she criticized the brands as if feeding the house wasn't something I was doing for her. And when her grades dropped because she skipped classes, she somehow twisted it into being my fault for not waking her up on time. But I think the real tipping point, the beginning of the deep resentment, started when Kaylee got into a serious relationship. Her boyfriend, now her fiancé, came from a stable, well-off family. And for the first time in her life, Kaylee wanted to prove she was the better daughter. She wanted our parents to admire her the way they admired me for being responsible. She wanted a win. So she started performing. Suddenly, she was mature. Suddenly, she pretended to help mom cook when her fiancé was around. Suddenly, she began telling her friends that she manages the house bills with Lauren, even though she never paid a single cent. I ignored it. I always ignored it, because peace felt more important than correcting her lies. But peace doesn't survive long when someone is actively trying to tear you down. Kaylee became overly sensitive to any praise I received. If Dad said, "Lauren works hard," Kaylee's face tightened as if she was swallowing fire. If Mom said, "Ask Lauren, she'll know," Kaylee rolled her eyes, so hard I could hear the annoyance. It was like my existence alone threatened her spotlight. The worst part? She began treating me differently, more aggressively, more bitterly, as her engagement got closer. She didn't want a sister standing beside her. She wanted a stage where she was the only actress. Small arguments turned into attacks. Innocent questions turned into interrogation. And helpful advice turned into, "You're just jealous of me." I wasn't jealous. I never had been. But she needed to believe that, because accepting the truth meant admitting that she was the one competing with me, not the other way around. By the time her engagement was only weeks away, the tension between us wasn't just visible, it was explosive. And deep down, something in my heart whispered a warning. Something was coming. Something I couldn't see yet, but I could feel it like a storm crawling across the sky. I just didn't know that the storm had already begun. If I had known that Kaylee's engagement ring would become the weapon that destroyed my entire place in the family, maybe I would have stayed far away from it, from her, from them, from that house. But some betrayals are impossible to predict, even when the signs are right in front of you. And Kaylee, she didn't just cross a line, she erased it. The day she received the ring was the beginning of everything. Her fiancé had saved up for months to buy it. A silver band with a flawless center stone. Elegant, bright, the kind of ring that reflected both luxury and love. Kaylee adored flashing it at everyone, including me, twisting her hand in the light whenever she spoke so the diamond would catch my attention. I smiled every time, even when she smirked and said things like, "Must be nice to finally see what a real engagement ring looks like." Huh? I wasn't even planning on getting married anytime soon, but Kaylee needed to feel superior. So I let her. What I didn't know was that somewhere inside her twisted jealousy, the ring had become more than a symbol of her engagement. It had become the perfect tool, the perfect excuse, to destroy me, to remove me from the house, to claim all the attention she wanted. 2 days before the trap unfolded, Kaylee had a strange energy around her. She was unusually quiet in the morning, glancing at me from the corner of her eye as if observing something. That evening, I came home from work and saw her standing outside my bedroom door. When she noticed me coming down the hallway, she jumped back quickly and faked a confused smile. "Oh, Lauren, hey? I was just looking for Mom," she said, acting flustered. I found it odd, but I was too tired to question anything. I walked past her, entered my room, and didn't think about it again. I should have. I really should have. But when you're used to chaos, you stop expecting danger. The next morning, chaos found me anyway. I was in the kitchen pouring myself a cup of coffee when Kaylee stormed in, her voice high-pitched and shaky.
"Mom, Dad."
My ring. My engagement ring. It's gone. I froze. The panic in her voice was too dramatic, too theatrical. Linda rushed in from the living room. Robert followed, and I stood there with my half-filled mug, watching the whole performance begin. "What do you mean it's gone?" Mom asked. Kaylee clutched her hand to her chest like some actress in a drama. "I put it on my dresser last night. It's not there now. I checked everywhere." I opened my mouth to offer help, but before I could speak, Kaylee turned sharply toward me. Her eyes flashed with something cold. "Lauren," she said, "did you see it?" My heart dropped a little. "No," I replied calmly. "Why would I have seen your ring?" She let out a shaky breath. "Well, you walked past my room last night. Maybe you—" "Kaylee," I said firmly, "don't start." But she didn't stop. She wasn't meant to stop. Suddenly, she began crying, loud, messy, overly exaggerated sobs. "I can't believe this. My ring. My fiancé trusted me with it. I can't lose it. How will I explain this?" In seconds, my parents were wrapped around her like she was a fragile child. They tried to calm her down, but she kept going, pointing in my direction, planting seed after seed of suspicion. And as expected, the seeds sprouted quickly. "Lauren," Dad said sternly, "did you enter Kaylee's room?" "I walked past it," I said. "That's all." "Well," Kaylee sniffed, "maybe we should check her room just to be sure." My body went cold. I stared at her, right in her eyes. She didn't even blink. "Are you seriously accusing me?" I asked. She shrugged slightly, pretending to be heartbroken. "I'm not accusing you. I just think we should check everywhere." Everywhere, meaning my room. I wanted to scream. I wanted to burst into tears. But instead, I stepped back and said quietly, "Fine. Go ahead." My mother walked into my room first. Dad followed. Kaylee walked behind them, her breathing shaky but her eyes shining with anticipation, like a predator waiting for the trap to snap shut. They checked my desk, my closet, my dresser. Nothing. Then Dad pulled out the top drawer of my nightstand. There it was. A small velvet box. Kaylee gasped dramatically. "Oh my God, that's my ring box." I stood frozen. My throat dried. My heart hammered so loudly, I could hear it echo through my ribs. Dad opened the box. The ring was inside, gleaming like a silver bullet aimed straight at my life. Mom stepped back as if she had touched something filthy. Kaylee covered her mouth with fake shock, hiding the wicked smile beneath it. "That's impossible," I whispered. "I didn't touch it. I didn't put it there." But my words didn't matter. In that moment, I wasn't Lauren, the daughter who paid the bills, the girl who held the house together, the woman who sacrificed everything. I was Lauren the thief, at least in their eyes. And the trap Kaylee had set had closed perfectly around me. For a moment, everything inside that room went completely silent. The only sound I could hear was the ringing in my ears, the kind that comes when your heart drops so suddenly that your body can't understand what just happened. I stared at the open ring box in my father's hand, unable to breathe, unable to move, unable to understand how something so precious, something I never even touched, ended up inside my drawer. Dad's face hardened as he held the ring between his fingers like evidence in a crime scene. "Lauren," he said, his voice low and unforgiving, "do you have anything to say for yourself?" My throat tightened. Yes, I whispered. I didn't do this. Kaylee sniffed loudly behind him, wiping imaginary tears. Why, Lauren? Why would you take my ring? You know how much it means to us. Her voice cracked in all the right places, like she had practiced this moment 100 times in front of a mirror. Stop it, Kaylee, I snapped. You put that ring here. You did this. Her eyes widened with that innocent puppy expression she had perfected her whole life. Me? Why would I do that? Because you hate me. Because you want me out of this house. Because you can't stand the fact that I'm the responsible one. But none of that would matter. Not here. Not now. Mom stepped forward, her expression disgusted. Not with Kaylee. Never with Kaylee, but with me. Lauren, I am so ashamed. How could you steal from your own sister? From your own home? I didn't. My voice finally rose, shaking. I didn't touch that ring. You have to believe me. Dad's jaw tightened. We found it in your drawer. What else are we supposed to believe? You're supposed to believe me, I said quietly. Your daughter. The one who keeps this house running. The one who pays. Mom cut me off sharply. Don't start that again. We didn't ask you to pay anything. You chose to. The words hit harder than a slap. Every bill. Every sacrifice. Every long shift. Every grocery trip. Every dollar I spent trying to keep this family afloat meant nothing. Mom, I said slowly, trying to hold my voice together. I've given everything to this house. And now you're taking things? She fired back. Kaylee let out a dramatic sob. I trusted you, Lauren. I showed you my ring. I let you hold it. You never let me hold it, I interrupted. Stop lying. But the damage was done. The decision was already made. Kaylee had planned everything too perfectly. Dad stepped closer to me, his voice firm and final. Pack your things. You're leaving this house today. The world around me cracked. Mom folded her arms. We cannot have a thief living under our roof. Not after what you've done. I didn't do anything, I shouted, for the first time raising my voice at them. Why won't you believe me? You know Kaylee, she. Enough, Dad roared. We found the ring in your room. This conversation is over. Kaylee stood behind them, silent now, her tears magically gone, her expression shifting into something colder, satisfied. She won. And she knew it. I looked at both of my parents. Their faces were filled with a disappointment reserved for strangers, not their own daughter. Not the daughter who paid their bills. Not the daughter who sacrificed her entire youth to support them. Not the daughter who never asked for anything in return. But in their eyes, I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was the villain in the story Kaylee had written. My legs trembled as I walked to my closet. I picked up my old duffel bag and began stuffing clothes into it with shaky hands. The entire time I hoped just a little that someone would stop me. That someone would say, Lauren, wait. Let's think about this. But no one did. Mom stood in the hallway, arms crossed. Dad stood by the door like a guard. Kaylee hovered in the background, pretending to cry into a tissue. When I zipped up my bag, something inside me broke. Not just sadness, but trust. Deep, foundational trust. As I walked toward the door, Mom said coldly, Leave the house key. I swallowed the lump in my throat and placed the key on the table. Dad opened the front door, without looking at me. Go. I took one last look at the home I had spent years caring for, a home I loved more than it ever loved me. And then I stepped outside. The door slammed behind me like a final verdict. The cold air hit my face, mixing with the tears I had been holding back. In that moment, standing alone on that porch with nothing but a duffel bag and a shattered heart, I realized something I never expected to learn this way. Sometimes the people you sacrifice everything for are the first people to throw you away. The moment the door shut behind me, the world felt colder than it had ever been. Not just because of the crisp Seattle air brushing against my skin, but because I had never felt so alone, so abandoned, so unwanted. I stood there on the porch holding my duffel bag, like it was the only piece of my life left. My hands were trembling, my breath uneven, and for a few seconds, I couldn't move. I kept waiting for anyone to open the door, to call my name, to say this was all a misunderstanding. But no one came. The house remained silent, dim, and emotionally empty, the same way it had treated me for years. I stepped off the porch, each footstep heavier than the last. The night air smelled of pine trees and distant rain, and the streetlights cast long shadows along the pavement. I didn't know where to go. I didn't have a plan. I was too shocked to think. My entire life had just collapsed in a single hour. My home wasn't home anymore. My parents weren't my parents anymore. And Kaylee, she wasn't my sister. Not in any way that mattered. My phone buzzed in my pocket. For a moment, I hoped it was Mom or even Dad. Maybe a simple come back inside. But when I looked, it was Megan. She had sent 3 messages. Hey, are you okay? Why aren't you answering? I'm worried. My fingers shook as I typed back. Can I come over? She replied instantly. Of course. I'm on my way. Stay where you are. I walked to the end of the driveway and sat down on the curb. Cars passed occasionally, headlights sliding across my face, but no one stopped. No one asked if I was okay. Maybe that was the universe's way of showing me what my family had never said out loud. I had been alone for a long time. I just didn't realize it. Within 15 minutes, Megan's car pulled up. She jumped out before the engine even stopped. Her expression shifted from worry to shock when she saw me, my puffy eyes, my shaking hands, the duffel bag beside me. Lauren, oh my God, what happened? She asked, rushing toward me. I didn't trust my voice, so I didn't speak. I just fell into her arms. She held me tightly, one hand on the back of my head, the other wrapping around my shoulders. Her voice softened. It's okay. I'm here. You're safe. That's all it took. Those words, I'm here, broke the dam. Tears poured out of me like I had been holding them in for years. She didn't rush me.
She didn't question me.
She just let me cry. And I cried for everything, for the home I built, for the love I never received, for the betrayal I never deserved, and for the pain my own family had willingly handed to me. After a while, Megan gently lifted my bag and guided me toward her car. Come on, she said softly. Let's get you somewhere warm. The moment we entered her apartment, the warmth hit me, not just physical warmth, but the kind that fills the air when someone truly cares about you. She handed me a blanket, made me sit on her couch, and poured me a cup of tea without asking a single question. When I finally calmed down, she sat beside me, turning her body toward mine. Tell me everything, she said.
And I did.
I told her about the ring, the search, the accusations, the heartbreak, the moment they chose Kaylee's lie over my truth. Megan listened without interrupting, without judging, without doubting me for even a second. When I finished, she shook her head in disbelief. They threw out the wrong daughter, she whispered. They don't deserve you. Her words were like a balm on a wound still bleeding. Then Megan asked the question that changed everything. Lauren, what do I do now? I stared at my cup, my reflection trembling in the liquid. For the first time, I said the words out loud. I'm done paying their bills. I'm done taking care of everything. If they think I'm a burden, then they'll see what life without me looks like. Megan nodded with fierce support.
Good.
It's about time you stopped carrying people who never cared to carry you back. I leaned against the couch, exhausted but lighter. For the first time in years, I wasn't in a house where I had to walk on eggshells. I wasn't the invisible daughter. I wasn't the problem to be fixed. I was just Lauren, someone worthy of love, respect, and peace. And that night, as I fell asleep on Megan's couch, wrapped in a soft blanket and the comfort of real friendship, I realized something. Being thrown out of that house wasn't the end of my life. It was the beginning of my freedom. The first week after I left home felt like a strange, empty silence, like the world was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. I didn't reach out to my parents, and they didn't reach out to me. Not a text. Not a call. Not even a message asking if I was safe. It was almost as if they had erased me from their lives within a single night. But the thing about being the backbone of a house is this. The moment you step away, everything that depends on you begins to collapse. And that collapse started faster than even I expected. It began with the electricity. I heard about it from a neighbor 2 houses down who bumped into me at the grocery store. She didn't know I had been kicked out, so she asked casually, "Everything okay at home? The power's been out for 2 days. Your parents were sitting outside last night with candles." Candles. 2 days. No power. A part of me felt a sharp, painful twist in my chest. Another part of me felt something else, something that tasted like bitter justice. For years, I had paid the electric bill on time. Without me, it took less than 1 billing cycle for darkness to settle over the house I once kept bright. A few days later, Megan came home early from work and tossed her keys on the table. "Lauren, you're not going to believe this," she said, sitting next to me. "I saw Robert at the convenience store." He looked exhausted. He was arguing with the cashier because his card kept declining. I didn't respond immediately. I stared at the mug in my hands, the steam rising in slow curls. A part of me wanted to help. Another part remembered the look on his face when he told me to go. That memory was stronger. "What did he do after?" I eventually asked. "He just walked out," Megan replied. "No groceries. No drinks. Nothing."
Good.
Let him feel what it's like to need something and not get it. A week later, the water bill went unpaid too. A friend of my mom's, who had no idea what happened, texted me by mistake. "Linda told me the water will be shut off in 2 days if they don't pay. Hope everything's okay." I put my phone down slowly. Water, electricity, groceries. Everything they took for granted was disappearing one by one. But the real blow, the one that shook the house, came when Kaylee's college issued a final notice. Since I had stopped paying her fees, she had been skipping deadlines, ignoring reminders, and pretending everything was fine. My parents were too stressed about bills to check anything. Kaylee assumed, like always, that I would eventually fix it. I didn't. 2 weeks later, Kaylee was officially suspended. I found out because she posted a rant on social media. It was filled with anger, self-pity, and blame directed at everyone except the person responsible, herself. She claimed the college was being unfair, that her teachers hated her, and when someone asked about the fees, she blamed family issues. Family issues she created. Family issues she caused. Family issues she still couldn't take responsibility for. Megan shook her head when she read the post. "She's falling apart without you," she said quietly. "Your entire family is." And deep inside, I felt a strange mix of sorrow and satisfaction. Not because they were struggling, but because the truth was finally visible. I wasn't the problem. I had never been the problem. I had been the glue. A few days later, another update came, this time from my aunt, who messaged me privately. "Lauren, something is wrong at your house. Your dad is borrowing money from neighbors. Your mom hasn't left the house in days. Kaylee is always screaming. Did something happen?" I stared at that message for a long time. Did something happen? Yes. Something huge. Something irreversible. But I didn't explain. I simply replied, "I'm fine." My aunt sent another message. "Do you need anything?" I almost laughed. That was the first time in years anyone in my family circle had asked me that. "No," I typed. "I'm okay." And the surprising part was I meant it. Meanwhile, the house that once treated me like a burden was now buckling under the weight of its own choices. Every bill they ignored, every responsibility they pushed aside, every task they assumed I would handle was now coming back to them like a tidal wave. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. And for the first time in theirs, my family felt what life was like without me. 3 weeks had passed since I left that house. 3 weeks of silence from the people who once claimed to be my family. I had almost begun to accept that maybe they never would realize the truth. Maybe they would live their whole lives believing I had stolen something I never touched. But life has a strange way of revealing what's hidden. Sometimes the truth doesn't need to be searched for, it exposes itself. It happened on a quiet Thursday evening. I had just finished dinner with Megan when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. At first, I ignored it. But when it buzzed again 3 times, I finally picked it up. They were voice messages. Long ones. And the moment I pressed play, I froze. It was Kaylee. She wasn't talking to me. She wasn't even talking to anyone in my family. She was talking to one of her friends, loud, careless, unaware that her phone had accidentally started recording. Her voice was sharp and frustrated. "Oh my God, you won't believe how stupid my parents are," she said, laughing. I literally hid the ring in Lauren's room, and they actually believed it. They kicked her out. Like, instantly. It was so easy. Megan's fork clattered onto her plate. My hands began to shake so violently that I had to put the phone down for a moment. But I forced myself to keep listening. Kaylee continued, her tone smug. I mean, she was getting all the attention. Paying bills, being the responsible one, ugh. I just wanted some peace. And now she's gone. The house is finally all about me. Then she laughed. A laugh I will never forget. A laugh that sliced through whatever was left of my heart. Another voice, her friend, asked, "Aren't you scared she'll find out?" Kaylee scoffed. "She's too nice. Too stupid. She won't come back. And even if she does, Mom and Dad won't believe her." The message ended. Silence filled the room. Megan looked at me with wide eyes. "Lauren, you need to save those. They're proof." Proof. Something I never had. Something I never needed until the people who should have trusted me chose to trust a lie instead. Before I could react, my phone buzzed again, this time a call. It was my father. I hesitated, but answered. "Hello." His voice was shaking, not angry, but broken. "Lauren, we need to talk." Behind him, I heard Linda crying. Loudly. And then I heard Kaylee screaming, "It wasn't supposed to go like this. I didn't mean for you to hear it." It hit me then. They heard the message. They knew. The truth had reached them before I could say a word. Dad's voice cracked. "Lauren, please, we're so sorry. We didn't know. We should have trusted you. We should have believed you. Please, can we meet?" I closed my eyes. For a moment, the part of me that still longed for their love wanted to say yes. But a larger part, stronger, wiser, finally healed, stayed quiet. And for the first time in my life, they were the ones begging for me. When I agreed to meet them the next day, it wasn't because I wanted an apology. It wasn't because I wanted them back in my life. It was because I needed closure, real, undeniable closure that would help me walk forward without looking back. Megan insisted on driving me to the small cafe near the waterfront where my parents had asked to meet. As we pulled into the parking lot, the ocean breeze carried the soft scent of salt water, and the sky glowed with the last golden stretch of sunlight. It felt symbolic somehow, like the universe was showing me that endings could also carry light. I saw them before they saw me. My father, Robert, sat hunched over a table, his hands clasped tightly together. He looked older, smaller, and strangely fragile. My mother, Linda, sat beside him, her eyes swollen and red as if she had been crying for hours. And then there was Kaylee, standing a few steps away, pacing nervously, her arms wrapped around herself as if the weight of her own lies had finally become too heavy to carry. The moment I stepped out of the car, Megan squeezed my hand. "You don't owe them anything, Lauren," she whispered. "Not forgiveness. Not explanations. Not even a conversation. You're doing this for you." I nodded because she was right. This wasn't their moment. It was mine. As I walked toward them, all three of them turned. My mother was the first to stand. "Lauren," she cried, taking a step forward. But I raised a hand, stopping her. She froze, tears clinging to her eyelashes. "Sit," I said quietly. My parents sat immediately, almost like children afraid of disappointing a teacher. Kaylee remained standing, staring at the ground. The silence between us was uncomfortable, heavy, and necessary. My father cleared his throat, his voice cracking. "Lauren, we listened to the recording. The one Kaylee sent her friend. We heard everything." My mother covered her mouth to stifle a sob. Kaylee's eyes filled with tears, but even now, I could see the pride fighting inside her, refusing to fully let go. Dad continued, "We were wrong. horribly wrong. We failed you as parents. We didn't trust you, even after everything you did for this family." His voice broke. "I don't know how to look at myself after what we put you through." My mother reached across the table, desperation dripping from her words. "Lauren, we're so sorry. We were blinded by our love for Kaylee. We didn't stop to think. We didn't listen. We didn't care about your feelings. They weren't lies. They weren't excuses. They were confessions, raw and painful." Then my father looked at Kaylee. "You will speak." Kaylee swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "Lauren, I don't know what to say. I didn't think it would go this far. I felt like you were taking everything. Mom and Dad, the house, the attention, everything. I thought if you left for a few days, things would calm down. I didn't think they'd actually throw you out." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know they would choose me over you." I looked at her, my face expressionless. "You didn't know?" I repeated softly. "Kaylee, they've been choosing you over me my whole life." She sucked in a shaky breath. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I'm sorry." It was the first real apology she had ever offered me. But even then, something inside me felt hollow listening to it. I took a slow breath. "I'm glad you said that. And I'm glad you all know the truth now." My voice was steady, stronger than I expected. "But I'm not coming back." The words hit them like a tidal wave. My mother's face crumpled. "Lauren, please." "No," I said it firmly. "You didn't trust me when it mattered. You didn't even ask me if I was okay after kicking me out. You saw me leave with a bag in my hands and pain on my face, and none of you cared enough to check on me. That's not love. That's not family." My father lowered his head, shame pouring off him like smoke. Kaylee wiped her eyes aggressively, unable to meet my gaze. "I'm building a new life now," I continued. "A life where I'm respected. A life where I'm not responsible for everyone else's choices. A life where I matter." My mother cried harder. Dad whispered, "We understand." Then, something inside me softened, not for them, but for the girl I used to be. The girl who spent years begging silently for validation that never came. "I forgive you," I said quietly. Their heads snapped up. "But forgiveness doesn't mean returning to the same place that destroyed me. I forgive you because I need peace, not because I want to go back." My mother collapsed into sobs. Kaylee covered her face. My father nodded slowly, accepting the truth even though it shattered him. I stood up. "Take care of yourselves." Before I walked away, I added the final words that came from the deepest part of me, words that carried both pain and freedom. "When you threw me out, you thought you broke me. But that night was the beginning of the life I should have had all along." I walked toward Megan's car, the cool evening breeze brushing against my skin. Behind me, my past cried. In front of me, my future waited, bright, quiet, and finally mine. Before I end my story, I just want to say thank you for listening to my journey. If you felt connected to anything I shared today, please subscribe to Storyview so you never miss my next chapter. And tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it there right now? I'd love to know.